Hello everyone, welcome to 3DDesignAcademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 16 of constructing the car project. So in the previous lesson, we worked on a little bit of the body side, but as I progressed through the model, I discovered a few errors, a few areas that need to be changed. So I think I'm going to take a few steps back and make sure that the model is compliant. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the curves layer on. And if you see here, you'll see that the wheel flat is actually not touching this area right here. So in order to make a nice transition between these two areas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the side, grab this curve, go to the side view. And I'm just going to move the pivot like this and snap it right here. And because we are in the side view, you'll notice that it's snapped right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hide the curve that is here. Make sure it doesn't snap in the wrong place. And I'm going to just do a move and snap the curve like this. Now in 3D, what that looks like is I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to do a redo. And we're just going to snap it right here. Now it kind of looks like it moved here, but from the side view, it is exactly at the same place. So that's why we're trying to move it from the side view. Okay, so now that it's snapped, let's move on to the next step. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extend these two surfaces. Now, because we are trying to create a front fender here, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to turn the curves off. And now, before you do that, I'm just going to get rid of all the fillets right here because I am going to be changing some of these areas right here. So I'm just going to say query the history, go back to the fillet, undo. Now this one, because the construction history is deleted, I do have to delete it. Actually, yeah, I'll just delete this part. So just delete that and delete the curve and surface right here. Oops. Just delete the curve and surface right here, and I'm just going to do a on trim right here and on trim right there, like that. Okay, and if you look at, actually, let's take a look at a picture first. So if you look at this picture right here, you'll see that this fillet or this surface extends to here, and we have to create a wheel flat. Well, the wheel flat is there, but we have to create a surface that connects the wheel flat to the body side. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm just going to go to the side view, and I'm going to strike a line. Let's see where this line needs to be. Okay, so I think I'm going to choose this as my... So I'm just going to extend the surface from here. So right now the surface is a little too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extend to this. Maybe I'll just go... I'm going to do a insert. And I'm just going to snap it right here. Oh, looks like it's not snapping. Okay, so if that's the case, I'm just going to extend the surface right here like that. And I'm going to extend the surface right here like that and snap it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn merge back on and extend these surfaces like that. So now by doing this, this is actually, you can think of it as an extension of the same surface. So the footprint or the location of the surfaces are exactly the same. Okay, actually, I'm going to extend them a little bit more. Just a little bit more so that it extends sort of beyond this wheel flat right here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, right now there's quite a lot of space, because if you see the direction of the body side right here, it's actually going in. But if you notice in the picture, you'll notice that it actually needs to come out a little bit because there's actually not a lot of distance between the wheel front and the body side. So what that means is we actually have to bend this. So if you look at the top view of the canvas right here, oops, you'll notice that there's actually a bend between here. There's actually a bend here so that we can, go back to the wheel flat like that. Okay, so I'm just going to say visible. Okay, so in order to do that, the reason why I extended the surface instead of creating a new one is because right now we have a really nice highlight flow from here to here. And I really want to keep that because if I just do a rail, if I just do a monorail like this, you're not going to get the same gesture. So if I just turn let's just select that and this, now you will see that the highlight actually climbs up and you'll create a sort of a kink or a break, and you don't want to see that. So that's the reason why I extended it. Okay, so the next step, now I'm going to actually reduce the amount of gap that's right here. So I'm just going to duplicate the curve right here, like this. And I'm going to stretch it out, and I'm just going to roughly place it right here. And next step, I'm going to align these surfaces to the curve. So I'm going to say align, position, and I'm going to say blending, expressive 2, and blend factor of 0. So that whatever this moves on the top, it's going to move the same amount at the bottom. Same thing over here. Now this one I might have to change a little bit, but let's see what we have. Okay. So now it's a lot closer to the surface right here, but I think I need a better grasp of how far it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a draft surface. And I'm just going to change the direction to Y and extend it a little bit so that I have a little bit better understanding of the gap. Now, you'll see right here that there is more gap here at the bottom than at the top. That is not the best condition to be in, because if you see the picture right here, you'll see that there's less gap here, less distance, and more distance as we progress upwards. And plus, we have a surface that is flowing here, so we want to make sure that the distance between the body side and the wheel flat is as small as possible. So what I'm going to do, move the picture to the side a little bit, is I'm actually going to pop this surface out. Now this seems like a lot of change, and it is, but this is something that we have to do, because if we decide to bend the surface instead of popping the whole side out, it's going to create a little bit of unwanted twist on the surface. So right now we have a really nice clean highlight flowing all the way through. We want to make sure to keep that as much as possible. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first of all, I'm actually going to delete these two surfaces, and I'm going to move this out a little bit. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to click on the canvas, and I'm just going to isolate these two. Okay, actually, let's start with the top. So I'm going to select these two surfaces, and I'm going to select the canvas. Okay, so looks like now it fits pretty well, but I think I can pop this out a little bit more. No, maybe not, just a little. Well, maybe just a little. So let's see what the history is here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the surface. Right now, this surface right here is aligned to this one. So I'm just going to bring that out just a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe like a, oh, it is not, is it not aligned? Maybe it's aligned to the curve. Let me bring the curve out. Okay, so it is aligned to the curve. So I'm just going to move the curve out just a little bit. Maybe, yeah, I think that should be good enough. We want to make sure we still want to be aligned to the canvas as much as possible. So I'm going to do that. Maybe that was a little bit too much. So I'm just going to move it back in like that. I'm just gonna, yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Okay, and the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm also going to move this out. So right now it was a direct translation, so I can just snap the CV right here and move it out like this, and it's still going to be aligned perfectly. Okay. And I'm also going to move the surface out like that. Okay, so the bottom one, on the other hand, however, I'm going to move it out a little bit more. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extend this surface a little bit, and I'm going to change it to degree 2, and I'm going to align it to here. And I'm going to say G2. Position influence to a max. Now, what this does is it gives you an extended surface that sort of has history alive. So whenever I change this one, this is also going to change. So what I'm looking to do is I'm just trying to make sure that this bottom one is a little bit more outboard compared to this one. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is maybe I'll just use the move CV tool, transform CV. So, well, maybe not. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do an untrim on the surface. And right now, the original curve that I used to create this with, I'm gonna snap it right here, like that, to the surface edge, back to the surface edge. Make sure they're exactly the same. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to move it out a little bit like that. Okay, and I'm gonna use a line, and I'm gonna align the surface to the curve. Now instead of doing curvature, because I cannot select this, I'm gonna say revert. I'm gonna make sure to change to position, and I'm gonna align this surface to the curve. And I'm gonna say extra serial 1 and blend factor of 1, so that it's a little bit more progression towards the bottom. Okay, so that looks good. And I'm going to pull it out a little bit more so that there's a nice progression between this surface and this distance right here. Okay, I think that looks good, but maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I do have, I have to pull it up quite a bit. Okay, so I think that's looking not too bad. It looks pretty similar here. And if you need to change it a little bit further, we'll do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. And I'm just gonna go back. Okay, and same thing we did over here. So I'm just gonna say insert again. Oh, not insert, I'm gonna use extend, merge off, extend it to here, and I'm just gonna turn the curves off. And I'm gonna say merge back on, and I'm gonna extend the curve or surface like this. Same thing over at the top. Snap it like that. Oh, actually, it's not snapped here, so I'm gonna do that again. So I'm just gonna snap it right here. Same thing over here, snap it. Extend it like that. Okay, so we still have the curve over here, so let's try to align this. So I'm gonna say align position, extra 0.2, blend factor of 0. Okay, that looks a lot better, but still, it looks like I should have maybe extend this a little bit more. So if that's the case, I'm going to, well, let's first of all, let's snap the curve right there. And it looks like I need to do a little bit more. So I think we still have history, so let's do that. So, and I'm probably going to align this surface again. So I'm just going to pull it out a little bit. Okay, actually, before I do that, I'm going to actually do on align. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use align, and this time I'm going to use project. So I'm going to use project, align position, and I'm going to say 3. So what this does is every time I pull this out, it creates a curve on surface. So everything is going to be, basically it allows me to use align without having an edge. It creates a curve on surface for me. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this out a little bit, a bit more until I see a little progression from here to here. Okay, I think that's pretty good right there. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. Same thing over here. I'm going to use a line like that. I'll just align it to the surface, not project, but edge. Change it back to edge and extra 2, and I think that's pretty good. Okay, so you'll see that the highlight is still following nicely from here to here, and I like that. So that's good. Okay. So now let's do a little bit more. Okay, so right now I think these surfaces should actually be a little bit more flush to the wheel flat. So I'm gonna check from the ortho to make sure they are. Okay, so I'm just gonna select these surfaces in the canvas. Say hide unselected. And make sure that these are nicely aligned. And it looks like we need to pull this out a little bit more. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the curve and pull this out a little bit more. Oops. Okay, so I need to adjust the history. Okay, again, I'm going to use a line position. I'm going to snap this surface to the curve like that. That's good. And I'm going to snap this one also to the curve like that. Make sure the position blend factor XRC02 and blend factor of 0. Okay, and I'm going to use a stretch tool to pop this out a little bit so that whatever we see here is a little bit aligned a little bit better, and it is much closer to the wheel flat right here. So I think I can pop it out a little bit more. Okay, I think that's getting pretty close. Yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. We'll see. If we need to adjust it, we can always adjust it in the future, but I think this is good for now. Okay, so now let's actually check this surface. Now, the problem is because we pulled this out a little bit too much, I think we lost the whole section here. So let's try to fix that. Okay. Actually, if that's the case, I'm actually going to push this back in. Let's find out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, now this seems a little bit more counter to what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so we need a little bit of section here. So right now, I think I made it a little bit too flat. So you don't see you almost see no break right here, and that's not what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this edge. And I'm going to push it back in to where it was before. So I'm going to take the canvas, hide unselected. And I'm actually going to push that back. Oh, actually, it's a little bit short. Yeah. Oh, actually we have a curve that we created for this. So I'm going to get that back out. Grab the canvas, object display, hide unselected. And I'm going to push that back in so that we get the nice section over here. Okay. Maybe something like that. And I'm going to realign this surface back to here. So I'm going to say on trim. Grab the curve. I'm going to use align position. Now for blending, I'm just going to do 1. And for the blend factor, I'm going to leave it at 1 so that it's a nice progression from top to bottom. Okay, so I think that's good. Let's see how much section we have. Okay, so we got some of the section back, so I'm happy with that. And I think we can just leave it there for now. Now the problem is, because we changed that, this is a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to side view, F6, and I'm going to align. Same thing, I'm going to use a project align like that, and I'm going to make sure that blending is 1, 2, 3, and blend factor of 0. Okay. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. So now let's update some of these surfaces. Actually, before we do that, I want to make sure that we have, yeah, it looks better here. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start over here. So I'm going to go to a side view. I'm going to turn the curves off because they're a little bit distracting. And I'm going to strike a curve. Actually, before we do that, I think I put some of the objects in the canvas layer, so I'm going to get them out. So it looks like these are the ones. So I'm just going to select these surfaces and put them in the default layer and go back to the default layer. Make sure the canvas layer is set at reference so that it doesn't move. Okay, so now let's strike a curve right here. So I'm going to strike a curve from the side view, degree 2. And I probably want a little bit more acceleration towards the front. That looks pretty good. And we're going to set that up also on the top view. Okay, make sure you're only moving it up and down so that it doesn't change it from the side view. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, and actually I got it pretty spot on this curve right here, because right now for some reason it doesn't show in the image on the canvas from the side view, but this line is, let me zoom in. We're trying to create this line that comes down like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And now I'm just gonna check from the top view. Top view looks good. Check from the side view, it looks good. Okay, so now I'm just gonna create a surface that connects between these two edges. So I'm gonna say position, position. So this one, you might wanna change the connect ends, and I'm gonna say modify range. I'm just gonna connect these two like that. And I'm going to bring it around like that. Oops. Now this one, it doesn't have to be like exact. We're just creating a surface. So just bring it somewhere like that. And this one, maybe bring it somewhere like that. We're just trying to create a surface here to display the fender. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of crown. So crown on and crown value of 0.01. And I'm going to reverse the direction. Okay. So I think this is a pretty good spot to stop. Okay, so that's it for part 16. We will continue in the next tutorial. Thank you guys for watching.